The morning mist clung to the Korean mountains like a gray blanket. Kim Tae-ho adjusted his ranger uniform and checked his radio one more time. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet for his liking. His partner Park Min-ho walked beside him, their boots crunching softly on the fallen leaves. "Another boring patrol day," Min-ho said, kicking at a small rock. "Nothing ever happens up here." Tae-ho smiled. "That's how I like it. Quiet means safe." He had been a forest ranger for 3 years now, ever since leaving the military. The mountains gave him peace after his time as an army medic. No more wounded soldiers, no more blood on his hands. Just trees, animals, and the occasional lost hiker. The sound hit them like thunder. A deep rumble echoed through the valley, followed by a bright flash of light streaking across the sky. Both men watched as something crashed into the mountainside. About 2 kilometers away, black smoke rose from between the trees. "Plane crash?" Min-ho asked, already reaching for his radio. "Maybe. But that light—" Tae-ho frowned. "I've never seen anything like it." They ran toward the crash site, pushing through thick bushes and jumping over fallen logs. The smell hit them first, something metallic and sharp, like burning copper. When they finally reached the crash site, both men stopped dead in their tracks. It wasn't a plane. The craft was about the size of a small car, but its shape was completely wrong. Smooth curves instead of straight lines, and made of a material that looked like liquid silver. Steam rose from its cracked hull, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its sides. "Is that?" Min-ho whispered. "An alien ship," Tae-ho finished. He had seen pictures in the news, of course. Everyone knew that Earth had made contact with other species 5 years ago. But seeing one in person was completely different. A weak sound came from inside the craft, like a groan of pain. "Someone's alive in there," Tae-ho said, moving toward the wreckage. "Wait!" Min-ho grabbed his arm. "We don't know what's inside. It could be dangerous." "It could be dying," Tae-ho replied, pulling free. His medic training kicked in. He had sworn an oath once long ago to help anyone who needed it. That oath didn't say anything about species. The ship's door had been torn open in the crash. Tae-ho peered inside and gasped. A young woman lay crumpled against the far wall. At least she looked like a young woman. Her skin was pale blue, almost white, with silver markings that ran along her arms and face like tattoos. Her hair was white as snow, and her ears were slightly pointed. Blood, silver blood, pooled beneath her. She was beautiful and completely alien. Her eyes fluttered open as Tae-ho crawled into the ship. They were large and purple, filled with pain and fear. "Please," she whispered in perfect Korean, though her accent was strange. "Help me!" Tae-ho didn't hesitate. He pulled his medical kit from his backpack and began examining her wounds. 3 deep cuts across her chest, a broken arm, and she was losing blood fast. Too fast. "Min-ho, call for a medical helicopter," he shouted. Already did. "But they won't be here for at least an hour." An hour! Tae-ho looked at the silver blood still flowing from her wounds. She didn't have an hour. Maybe not even 30 minutes. He applied pressure bandages, but her blood was different from human. Blood, it didn't clot the same way. Nothing he did seemed to help. The alien woman's eyes found his. "My name is Naya," she said weakly. I was running away." "From what?" "Marriage, politics, things I cannot control." She coughed, and more. Silver blood stained her lips. "I just wanted to be free." Tae-ho understood that feeling. He had left the military for similar reasons. Too many people trying to control his life, telling him who to save and who to let die. "What's your blood type?" he asked, though he knew it was probably pointless. "I don't understand." Never mind. He checked her pulse, weak and getting weaker. At this rate, she would die long before help arrived. "Tae-ho, what are you doing?" Min-ho called from outside the ship. Tae-ho looked at his medical kit. He had everything he needed for a field transfusion. Tubes, needles, even a small portable pump. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It might kill them both. But she was dying right now. "I'm going to try something," he told Naya. "It might not work. It might hurt us both. But if I don't try, you'll die for sure." She nodded weakly. "I trust you." Those 3 words hit him harder than anything. This alien princess, this being from another world, trusted him completely. She didn't even know his name. Taeho set up the transfusion equipment with quick, practiced movements. He inserted a needle into his own arm first, then into hers. The tubes connected them and his red blood began flowing toward her silver. Taeho, what are you doing in there? Minho sounded worried. Saving a life. At first, nothing happened. Then, Naya's silver blood began to change. Where his red blood mixed with hers, it turned a strange pink color. Her body shuddered, and Taeho felt a weird tingling in his own chest. Is it working? She asked. I don't know. How do you feel? Strange. Warm. Like I'm waking up from a long sleep. The bleeding from her wounds slowed, then stopped. The silver markings on her skin began to glow brighter. Taeho felt dizzy, but not from blood loss. Something else was happening, something he couldn't understand. After 20 minutes, he stopped the transfusion. Naya's color had improved dramatically. She was still pale blue, but there was life in her eyes again. Thank you, she said, sitting up slowly. I feel different. Better than different. Taeho packed up his equipment, trying to ignore the strange sensations running through his body. The helicopter should be here soon. They'll take you to a hospital. No, Naya said firmly. No hospitals. My people will come for me soon. If they find me in a human hospital, she shuddered. It would cause problems. What kind of problems? Before she could answer, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Not one, but several. And they didn't sound like medical choppers. Naya grabbed Taeho's hand. Her skin was warm now, not cold like before. You saved my life. That makes us connected now in ways you don't understand. Things are going to change for both of us. What do you mean? She smiled, and for the first time she looked truly alien. Beautiful and dangerous and completely other. You gave me your blood, Kim Taeho, and I gave you something in return, whether we knew it or not. The galaxy is about to discover that humans and my people are more connected than anyone ever imagined. The helicopters landed and soldiers poured out, both human and alien soldiers. Taeho looked at Naya, then at his own hands. They looked the same, but he could feel something different inside him, something new and strange and powerful. What had he done? 3 days passed like a strange dream for Taeho. The government had taken both him and Naya to a secret facility in Seoul. They kept them in separate rooms, asking endless questions about what happened in the mountains. Taeho told them the truth. He was a medic. She was dying. He tried to save her. Simple as that. But nothing felt simple anymore. His body had changed in ways he couldn't explain. He needed less sleep, could hear conversations from rooms away, and his reflexes had become impossibly fast. When a doctor accidentally dropped a glass bottle, Taeho caught it before his brain even registered it was falling. The dreams were worse. Every night he saw flashes of places he had never been, crystal cities under purple skies, vast ships sailing between stars, and always the feeling that he was remembering something important that he had forgotten long ago. On the 3rd day, Dr. Lee Hana came to see him. She was young for a government scientist, maybe 30, with kind eyes behind wire-frame glasses. How are you feeling, Mr. Kim? She asked, sitting across from him in the small interview room. Different, Taeho said honestly. Like I'm becoming someone else. The blood tests show remarkable changes in your cellular structure. Enhanced muscle density, improved neural pathways, even changes in your DNA that we don't understand. She leaned forward. What you did should have killed you both. Human and Velian blood are completely incompatible. Except somehow, they weren't. Velian? That's what her people are called. The Velian Empire controls about 40 star systems. Princess Naya is the Emperor's youngest daughter. A princess. Taeho almost laughed. He had given a blood transfusion to alien royalty using field medical equipment in a crashed spaceship. Can I see her? He asked. Dr. Hana hesitated. There have been complications. Her people arrived yesterday. Ambassador Kale wants to take her home immediately. And she doesn't want to go? She refuses to leave without speaking to you first. She says you saved more than her life. You gave her back her soul. Before Taeho could ask what that meant, Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. "What's happening?" Taeho asked. Dr. Hana spoke rapidly into her radio, then turned back to him with wide eyes. "She's awake, and she's angry." They hurried through the facility toward the medical wing. The hallway was full of unconscious guards, but none of them looked hurt, just peacefully asleep. "She did this?" Taeho asked. "We think so. Her abilities have expanded since the transfusion." They found Naya in what had been a secure medical room. The door hung twisted off its hinges. Inside, she stood facing a tall alien man in elegant blue robes. Her silver markings glowed so brightly they hurt to look at. "I will not return, Uncle Kale," she was saying in English. "Not yet." Ambassador Kale looked exactly like Taeho had expected an alien diplomat to look. Cold, formal, and completely out of place in the sterile medical room. His pale blue skin had no markings at all, and his purple eyes held no warmth. "Your father commands it, Princess. This contamination must be cleansed before it spreads further." "Contamination?" Naya laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I have never felt more alive, more complete. The human did not contaminate me. He awakened me." "Impossible. Humans are a primitive species. They have nothing we need." That was when Naya noticed Taeho in the doorway. Her face lit up with joy, and the glow from her markings softened to a warm silver light. "Taeho," she said, and somehow his name sounded like music in her voice. Ambassador Kale turned and saw him. His expression changed from cold displeasure to something closer to fear. "You," he said. "What have you done to her?" "I saved her life," Taeho replied simply. "You have ruined everything." Kale stepped toward him, and Taeho felt his new reflexes kick in. He moved aside easily, much faster than should have been possible. "Uncle, enough," Naya said sharply. Her voice carried a new authority that made everyone in the room freeze. "He is under my protection now." "Protection?" Kyle's voice rose. "Naya, you are thinking like a human. This creature's blood has poisoned your mind." "Has it?" Naya walked over to a potted plant sitting on the windowsill. It was dying, its leaves brown and withered. She placed her hands around it gently, and immediately the plant began to change. Green spread through its leaves, new growth sprouted, and within seconds it was healthy and beautiful. "I could never do that before," she said quietly. "For 300 years my people have been losing the old abilities. We blamed it on evolution, on living too long among the stars. But what if we were wrong? What if we just forgot how to be whole?" Dr. Hana was taking notes frantically. "Remarkable. Your cellular structure has completely reorganized. The human DNA markers are integrating with your Velian genetics in ways that should be impossible." "It's not impossible," Taeho said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. "I've been having dreams, old dreams, like memories from someone else's life. Cities made of crystal, ships that sail between stars, people who could heal with a touch." He looked at Naya. "People who looked like both of us." Ambassador Kyle went very still. "What exactly are you saying, human?" "I'm saying maybe we're not as different as everyone thinks." Dr. Hana's tablet beeped with an urgent message. She read it, and her face went pale. "Dr. Shin's preliminary DNA analysis just came back," she said. "Kim Taeho, Princess Naya, you need to see this." She turned her tablet around so they could see the screen. 2 DNA helixes rotated slowly. One human, one Velian. As they watched, the computer highlighted matching sequences in both. "These genetic markers," Dr. Hana explained, "they're identical, not similar, identical. And they're in sections of DNA that scientists call junk, genetic material we thought was useless, left over from evolution." "What does that mean?" Naya asked. "It means you share common ancestors. Recent common ancestors, genetically speaking. Maybe a few million years ago, not billions." The room fell silent except for the hum of medical equipment. Ambassador Kyle was the first to speak. "This is impossible. Our species evolved on worlds hundreds of light years apart." "Did they?" Taeho asked. "Or were they moved there?" Before anyone could answer, more alarms began sounding. This time they were different. Not facility alarms, but the deep, urgent tone that meant incoming spacecraft. Commander Choi Seung's voice came over the intercom. "All personnel to secure positions. We have multiple Velian ships approaching Earth. Orbit. They're demanding the immediate return of Princess Naya." Ambassador Kale straightened his robes. "Your father grows impatient, Princess. These games must end." But Naya wasn't looking at her uncle. She was looking at Taiho, and her purple eyes were filled with something that might have been fear. "They're not just coming for me," she said softly. "If the genetic connection is real, if humans and Velians are truly related." She grabbed Taiho's hand. "There are people in both our governments who will do anything to keep this secret. They'll see you as a threat." "Why?" "Because if our people are one people, then all the wars, all the territories, all the power structures built on the idea that we're different." She squeezed his hand tighter. None of it would make sense anymore. Through the window they could see lights moving across the sky, the Velian fleet taking position around Earth. Taiho felt something stirring inside him, something new and strange and powerful. Whatever had happened during the blood transfusion, it wasn't finished yet. He was changing, becoming something more than human. And looking at Naya, seeing her silver markings pulse with inner light, he knew she was changing too. The question was, would they be allowed to live long enough to figure out what they were becoming? Dr. Shin Ji-ho looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His usually neat laboratory was covered with data sheets, genetic charts, and empty coffee cups. When Taiho and Naya arrived with Dr. Hana, he was staring at a wall-sized computer screen filled with DNA sequences. "You need to see this," he said without turning around. "Both of you." The secret government facility had become a fortress. Outside, Earth's defense ships faced off against the Velian fleet in a tense standoff. Inside, scientists worked frantically to understand what Taiho's blood transfusion had revealed. "The genetic matches aren't random," Dr. Shin continued, highlighting sections of code on the screen. "They're in very specific areas, genes that control healing, strength, longevity, even psychic abilities. It's like someone designed both species to be compatible." Naya moved closer to the screen. Over the past week, her silver markings had grown brighter and more complex. She could now heal small wounds with a touch, sense emotions from across a room, and her physical strength had doubled. "My grandmother used to tell stories," she said quietly. "Old legends about the first children who came from the sky. Most Velians think they're just fairy tales." "What did the stories say?" Dr. Hana asked, taking notes. "That long ago, before our people spread across the galaxy, we all lived together on one world, a beautiful world where everyone could heal and create and travel between the stars with just their minds." Naya's eyes grew distant. "Then something terrible happened. A great darkness came, and the first children had to scatter across the universe to survive." Taiho felt a chill run down his spine. "I've been dreaming about something like that. A war in space, ships burning, people running, children being hidden on distant worlds." Dr. Shin turned around finally, and they could see the excitement and fear in his eyes. "3 days ago, I would have said those were just dreams. But this," he gestured at the screen, "this suggests your dreams might be genetic memories, information passed down in your DNA." "That's impossible," Dr. Hana said. "A week ago, I would have said human-Velian blood compatibility was impossible, too." Dr. Shin pulled up another screen. "Look at this. I found similar genetic markers in blood samples from 12 other species that have made contact with Earth. Not as strong as the human-Velian connection, but they're there." The room fell silent, as everyone absorbed what that meant. 12 species, Naya whispered. "All with traces of the same ancient genetics. All possibly children of the same parent race," Taiho added. Before anyone could respond, the door burst open. General Wan Kyung strode in, followed by 3 soldiers and an old Velian in simple gray robes. "Dr. Shin, Princess Naya, Mr. Kim," the general said. "I'd like you to meet Elder Vex. He's been studying our research data." Elder Vex was the oldest Velian Taiho had ever seen. His blue skin was wrinkled like ancient paper, and his purple eyes held depths of knowledge that made Taiho feel young and foolish. "The human speaks truth," Elder Vex said in accented English. "I have spent 800 years studying the old archives." The stories Princess Naya remembers. They are not legends. They are history. He moved to the computer terminal with surprising grace for someone so old. May I? Dr. Shin stepped aside, and Elder Vex began calling up files from what looked like a completely different computer system, one with Velian writing and strange, flowing interfaces. These are the Forbidden Archives, Elder Vex explained. Records so old that most of my people believe them to be myths. But genetic proof changes everything. He turned to look at Taeho and Naya. You two have awakened something that was meant to stay sleeping. The screen filled with images, beautiful cities floating in space, beings who looked like mixtures of human and Velian working together, ships that seemed to be grown rather than built. The Athari, Elder Vex said, the first people. They ruled not through conquest, but through connection. They could share thoughts, heal any wound, travel instantly between worlds. They were what both our species could become if we stopped fighting and started remembering. What happened to them? Taeho asked. Elder Vex's expression darkened. The Void Hunters came. He changed the screen to show something that made everyone step back in horror. Black ships like living nightmares, creatures of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. They came from the spaces between galaxies, Elder Vex continued. Ancient beings who fed on chaos and destruction, the Athari's peace and unity was poison to them, so they destroyed everything. But some survived, Naya said. Yes. The Athari scattered their children across 1,000 worlds, hiding them, changing them, making them forget who they were. Over millions of years, these children became new species. Humans, Velians, Thraxians, Zephyrite, all the races that now fill the galaxy. General Wan Kyung stepped forward. Elder Vex, are you telling us that humans and aliens are all related? Not related, Elder Vex corrected. The same. We are all fragments of what the Athari once were. Dr. Hana was frantically typing notes. But if that's true, then the blood compatibility, the enhanced abilities, are our true nature beginning to reassert itself, Elder Vex finished. What happened between Princess Naya and Kim Taeho was not an accident. It was recognition. Their genetics remembered what they truly are. Suddenly, all the lights in the facility went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Sir, a voice crackled over General Wan's radio. We're detecting something on long-range scanners, multiple large objects approaching the solar system. They're not human or Velian. Elder Vex went very still. How long since the awakening began? He asked. The blood transfusion happened 10 days ago, Dr. Shin said. Then we may already be too late. Elder Vex turned to Taeho and Naya. The Void Hunters have sensors across the galaxy. They watch for signs of Athari genetics reactivating. Your joining will have triggered alerts that have been dormant for millions of years. The Void Hunters are real? General Wan asked. And they're coming here? They never stopped hunting, Elder Vex said grimly. They have spent eons making sure the scattered children never remember what they truly are. Whenever compatibility pairs emerge, whenever two fragments of the Athari bloodline find each other, the Void Hunters come to destroy them. Taeho felt something cold settle in his stomach. How many pairs are there? Unknown. Hidden across the galaxy, most not even knowing what they are. But if they could be brought together, if they could awaken, as you two have... Elder Vex looked at them with something like hope. The Athari might live again. The facility shook as something large passed overhead. The Void Hunters work through agents, Elder Vex continued urgently. Some in your government, some in mine. People who have been conditioned over generations to fear the awakening, to see it as a threat to order and stability. Who? Naya demanded. Before Elder Vex could answer, the door exploded inward. Armed figures in black armor poured into the room, their faces hidden behind helmets that looked more alien than human. Agent Yu Dummy, Earth Intelligence, the lead figure announced. By order of the Security Council, Kim Taeho and the alien, called Naya, are to be contained for the safety of both species. General Wan stepped forward. Agent Yu, I don't recognize your authority here. The situation has changed, General. Agent Yu's voice was cold and mechanical. These two represent a threat to galactic stability. They will be separated and studied. Their genetic material will be contained. Like hell, Taiho said. He moved faster than he ever had before, faster than should have been possible. But Agent, you moved just as fast, raising her weapon with inhuman speed. That was when Naya's markings flared with brilliant light. Every piece of electronic equipment in the room sparked and died. In the sudden darkness, Taiho felt her hand find his. Power flowed between them. Not electricity, but something deeper. Something that made the air around them shimmer with possibility. "Run," Elder Vex whispered. "Find the others. Wake them up. It may be our only chance." "What others?" Taiho asked. But Elder Vex was already moving, staff glowing with the same light as Naya's markings. "Go! The real war is just beginning." As they ran through the darkened facility, Taiho realized that everything had changed. He wasn't just a forest ranger who had saved an alien princess anymore. He was something much more dangerous. He was a fragment of a lost civilization, beginning to remember what it meant to be whole. The abandoned subway tunnel echoed with their footsteps. Taiho, Naya, Dr. Hana, and Elder Vex had been running for 3 days, staying ahead of both Earth intelligence and Valiant forces who wanted them captured or killed. Park Minho waited for them at the predetermined meeting point, along with 2 people Taiho didn't recognize, a human woman with short black hair and a tall alien with golden skin. "This is Captain Osora," Minho explained, gesturing to the woman. "She's been tracking compatibility pairs across the galaxy." Captain Sora stepped forward. Her eyes held the same intensity Taiho had seen in his own reflection lately. The look of someone who was becoming more than they used to be. "I'm like you," she said simply. 5 years ago, I gave emergency blood to a Thraxian pilot during a rescue mission. We both thought we were going to die from incompatibility poisoning. But you didn't, Naya said. We became something new instead." Sora nodded toward the golden-skinned alien. "This is Kale Dan. We've been partners ever since." Kale Dan spoke, in a voice like wind chimes. "We have been searching for others like us. The dreams led us to you." "Dreams?" Taiho asked. "The same ones you've been having," Sora explained. "Memories of crystal cities, of the time before the scattering. We've found 17 other pairs so far, hidden across human and alien space." Elder Vex looked surprised. 17? That is more than I dared hope. Dr. Hana was frantically taking notes. "Captain Sora, what abilities have you developed?" "Enhanced strength and speed, limited telepathy with Kale Dan, and I can manipulate energy." "Fields." Sora held up her hand and electricity danced between her fingers. "But we're still learning. Each pair is different, like we're all pieces of a larger puzzle." "The Athari were individuals," Elder Vex explained, "but they could join their consciousness when needed. Perhaps each pair represents a different aspect of their abilities." A distant explosion shook dust from the tunnel ceiling. "They've found our last safe house," Minho said grimly. "Agent Yu's forces are getting closer." "It's not just Earth intelligence," Sora warned. 3 days ago, Prince Zoran arrived from the Velian Empire with a fleet of warships. He's claiming Princess Naya was kidnapped and contaminated by humans." Naya's markings flickered with anger. "Zoran, my betrothed." She practically spat the word. "He has wanted to control me since we were children." "There's something else," Kale Dan said, his musical voice now troubled. "Our scouts report strange. Ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. Ships that match no known design." Elder Vex went very still. "The Void Hunters." "They're real, then?" Dr. Hana asked. "Very real. And they will not allow the awakening to continue." Elder Vex looked at each of them in turn. "For millions of years, they have made sure the scattered children never remember their true nature. They work through agents in every government, people who believe that genetic awakening will destroy civilization." "Maybe it will," Taiho said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "Think about it. If humans and aliens are really the same people, then every war, every territorial dispute, every trade negotiation becomes meaningless. The people in power lose everything. Which is why they'll do anything to stop us," Sora said. "But that's also why we have to succeed." Her tablet beeped with an urgent message. She read it, and her face went pale. New intelligence from our contacts in Earth defense. Agent U isn't working alone. She's part of something called Project Separation, a joint human-alien task force dedicated to preventing genetic awakening. Joint? Naya asked. Hardliners from both sides working together. They see us as a threat to species purity. Another explosion, closer this time. We need to move, Minho said. But where? They're watching every spaceport, every transport hub. Not every transport, Elder Vex said with a mysterious smile. There are ways to travel that your modern technology cannot detect. He led them deeper into the tunnel system, to an area that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. Ancient symbols were carved into the walls, symbols that looked almost familiar to Taiho. Athari waypoints, Elder Vex explained. Built into the infrastructure of worlds they settled. Most were forgotten or destroyed, but some remain. He placed his hand on one of the symbols, and it began to glow. Naya gasped and placed her hand next to his. The glow spread to other symbols around the chamber. I need the pair bond, Elder Vex said. Only awakened genetics can activate the waypoint. Taiho took Naya's other hand, and the power that flowed between them intensified. The entire chamber filled with soft light, and the air began to shimmer. Where does it lead? Dr. Hana asked. To another waypoint. On a world the Void Hunters thought was destroyed long ago. The light grew brighter, and Taiho felt the strange sensation of the world shifting around them. Reality blurred at the edges. Then Agent Yu's voice echoed through the tunnels. Found them! Section C7, moving to intercept! Armed figures poured into the chamber just as the waypoint fully activated. Agent Yu raised her weapon at Taiho, but the transport beam caught them all. The last thing Taiho saw before the world dissolved was Agent Yu's face beneath her helmet, and the realization that her eyes were completely black, like pools of void. They materialized on a hillside under two purple suns. The air smelled of flowers and ozone, and in the distance, crystal spires rose toward the sky. An Athari city, Elder Vex said with wonder. Still intact after all these eons, but their moment of peace was shattered by the sound of ships descending. From orbit, black ships that hurt to look at directly. The Void Hunters followed us, Sora said, her hand already crackling with electricity. Of course they did, a new voice said behind them. They turned to see Agent Yu materializing from shadow, but she looked different now. Her skin had a strange gray tint, and her eyes were pools of absolute darkness. We have been watching the waypoints for millennia, waiting for someone foolish enough to activate them. You're not human, Dr. Hana whispered. I was once, before I was chosen to serve a higher purpose. Agent Yu smiled, and her teeth were sharp as broken glass. The Void Hunters do not destroy directly anymore, too messy. Instead, we convert. We take the strongest from each species and make them into agents of order. Order? Naya's markings blazed with defiant light. You call genocide order? I call it necessity. The Athari nearly destroyed the galaxy with their chaos. Unity, connection, shared consciousness. These things lead to stagnation. Evolution requires conflict, separation, the strong dominating the weak. More shadow figures began materializing around them. Some looked human, some alien, but all had those terrible black eyes. You cannot win, Agent Yu continued. We have agents in every government, every military, every resistance group. The awakening ends here. That was when Taiho felt it, a presence in his mind that wasn't his own. At first he thought it was Naya, but it was. That was when Taiho felt it, a presence in his mind that wasn't his own. At first he thought it was Naya, but it was bigger than that, much bigger. Other voices joined his thoughts. Captain Sora's voice, clear and strong, Cal Dan's musical tones. Dozens of others he had never met but somehow knew. The 17 pairs that Sora had found were all connected now, their consciousness flowing together like streams joining a river. Impossible! Agent Yu hissed, stepping back as the light from Naya's markings spread to Taiho, then to the others. The network was destroyed millions of years ago. Not destroyed, Elder Vex said with growing wonder. Hidden, waiting for enough awakened pairs to reactivate it. Through the mental connection, Taiho could see everything. Pairs of awakened beings scattered across the galaxy, a human trader and her Zephyrite partner on a cargo ship near Jupiter, twin brothers who had found their Crystallian matches in the outer colonies, even Ambassador Kyle's own daughter secretly bonded with a human diplomat on Earth. They were all connected now, all sharing power, knowledge, and purpose. The Athari. "Live!" whispered a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere. An ancient presence stirred in the crystal city behind them. "The first one awakens." Agent Yu raised her weapon, but before she could fire, Prince Zoran's ship descended from the sky. The Valian prince emerged with a squad of elite guards, his purple eyes blazing with fury. "Naya!" he shouted. "Enough of this madness! You will return with me and submit to purification, or I will destroy this entire world." "I will not," Naya replied calmly. Her voice carried new authority, not just her own, but the combined will of all the awakened pairs. "I know what I am now, Zoran. We all do." Prince Zoran looked confused by her confidence. "You are contaminated, poisoned by human genetics. But it can be fixed." "There is nothing to fix," Taiho said, stepping beside Naya. "We're not contaminated. We're complete." The mental network pulsed with agreement from dozens of awakened pairs across the galaxy. Through their shared consciousness, Taiho could feel their combined power growing stronger every second. "The Void Hunters have lied to you," Elder Vex said to Prince Zoran, "as they have lied to leaders of every species for millions of years. They whisper fears of genetic contamination, of lost purity, of chaos that will come from unity. But unity is not chaos. It is strength." Agent Yu's black eyes flickered with something like uncertainty. "The prince does not serve the void. He serves order." "Your order," Sora said, electricity dancing around her hands. "The order that keeps species separate and afraid." "Look around you," Dr. Hana added, gesturing at the crystal city. "This is what the Athari built when species worked together. Not conquest, not empire. Cooperation." Prince Zoran seemed to waver. "But the teachings say that mixing bloodlines leads to weakness, to the loss of what makes each species unique." "The teachings are wrong," Naya said gently. "Feel the truth, Zoran. You have Athari blood too, we all do." She reached out with her enhanced abilities, and for a moment, Prince Zoran's own silver markings began to glow faintly. His eyes widened in shock. "That's impossible. I am pure Velian blood." "There is no such thing," Elder Vex said. "Every species in the galaxy carries fragments of Athari genetics. Some stronger, some weaker, but all connected." Agent Yu snarled and fired her weapon, but the energy beam struck an invisible barrier around the awakened group. The combined will of the network had created a shield that no single weapon could penetrate. "The network grows stronger," the ancient voice said again, and this time Taiho saw its source. A figure of pure light was approaching from the crystal city, tall, graceful, with features that looked like a perfect blend of every species in the galaxy. "The first one," Elder Vex breathed, falling to his knees. "The original Athari, preserved in the city's memory core." The being of light spoke, and its voice resonated in everyone's mind. "I am what you can become. What you were meant to become before the Void Hunters scattered us across the stars." "You're just a memory," Agent Yu said, but her voice shook. "A ghost in an ancient machine." "I am possibility," the first one replied. "I am what happens when fear is replaced by hope, when separation becomes connection, when the scattered children remember they are one family." Through the network, Taiho felt more awakened pairs joining every moment. The mental connection was spreading, reaching across space to touch other compatible bloodlines. Humans, Velians, Thraxians, Zephyrites, dozens of species all discovering. They shared the same ancient heritage. Prince Zoran looked at his hands as his markings grew brighter. "I can feel them. Other minds, other hearts. It's beautiful." "It's an infection," Agent Yu snapped, but she was backing away now. "The Void Hunters will not allow this." "The Void Hunters have no power here," the first one said. "Not anymore." Black ships hovering overhead began to retreat. Through the network, Taiho could sense their confusion and fear. The Void Hunters had spent millions of years maintaining control through division and fear, but unity was their weakness. They could not corrupt what was already whole. Agent Yu made one last desperate attempt, lunging toward Naya with a blade that seemed to absorb light. But Taiho was ready, moving with speed granted by his awakened genetics. He caught her wrist. For a moment he looked into her black eyes and saw not evil, but pain. Endless, terrible loneliness. "You can join us," he said quietly. "The network can heal what they did to you." Agent Yu's expression flickered. For just an instant, her eyes showed their original brown color. I remember being human, before they took me, before they made me into this." Naya placed her hand on Agent Yu's shoulder, and healing light flowed through her touch. The gray tint faded from the agent's skin, and her eyes slowly returned. "To normal brown. I remember my name," she whispered. "You dummy. I was a teacher before they converted me." The network embraced her mind gently, offering connection instead of control. Around the galaxy, the awakening accelerated. Compatible pairs found each other and joined the growing consciousness. Ancient barriers between species began to crumble, as people realized they were all fragments of the same whole. Some governments resisted, some military leaders tried to maintain the old divisions, but it was too late. The truth had spread too far. 6 months later, Taiho stood on the observation deck of New Athari Station, watching ships from a dozen species working together to build humanity's first truly galactic home. Naya stood beside him, her hand in his. Their bond now part of a network that spanned thousands of worlds. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving blood to a dying alien princess?" Taiho smiled, watching human children play with Velian younglings in the station's gardens. "Best decision I ever made." Through the vast network of awakened minds, he could feel the agreement of millions of beings who had rediscovered their shared heritage. The Athari had not died. They had simply been waiting for their children to come home. The galaxy was finally whole again.